receive the grace this morning and this idea that is the truth of our true soul identity, that we be graced with the realization. It's almost like if you set a pact with your soul and source right now that you're not going to walk out of this room until you know who you are, there's a lot better chance that you'll leave with a higher state of consciousness than if you don't set such a covenant and make such an outrageous, high bar for yourself. It's almost like, a lot of people pray, and they pray kind of wishing that their prayer would come true. They pray from a limited state of consciousness, kind of doubting that their prayers will be answered or heard, kind of having some sabotaging thoughts around it, where really prayer and meditation is a demand. It's a demand of your soul. It's like saying, I am the soul, or I am a son of the infinite, and you are my creator, you're my father, and what I ask you, you must give me. Done deal. So that is kind of the attitude that you and I can start to take on as who we really are. Not as weaklings anymore, not as people who are lacking, people who need something outside of already this all accomplished, all perfect, all wise, all loving, undying true self called the Atma. No, that's the old us. You and I are now under the grace, and I mention that word again, and in the training of the holy ones, aren't we? The fact that you can hold that book, as I mentioned last week, in your hands and be with the thoughts and vibrations that's in them, which are living vibrations. So you're with the living truth as you hold that book. Means that the holy ones have accepted you, and they really have their eyes on you and me. Because unlike people who are still questioning and wondering if this is going to be for them in this life, or if they're capable of changing their bad habits at this stage in their life, the holy ones are looking at you as someone who's going to turn from student to disciple, which means that this becomes an unconditional way of being, that this moment is unconditional for you. That means that you as Arjuna warrior are willing to slash away any obstacle that is preventing you from experiencing this unbelievable flood of divine love pouring through your heart. Can I read you a quote from Rumi? My whole class was on it this morning. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Your task is not to seek for love. It's much like the Buddha says, don't seek for enlightenment. Just cease cherishing your beliefs. Rumi says, don't seek for love, but merely seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And one such barrier, not to make it wrong, is this our addiction to thinking. That we're sitting here now even trying to think what that means. That's a barrier to the experience. So as we get closer and closer to not letting go of our identity, that would be crazy to walk around this planet completely fooled by yourself and completely fooling others and being something you're not. Would it not? Well, welcome to planet Earth, because it is an insane asylum. But since we're all insane, it works. For better or worse, right? Through sickness and health, till death do us part. It works because we're all totally insane the same way. But you do notice, don't you, that the holy ones kind of have a different way of being and a different way of life than us. You and I don't remember those times that we were with an enlightened being. Not to mention the times that we kind of had flashes of the enlightened being that you and I are. But it's a whole different thing. These people don't play ball the way the human consciousness plays ball. They have a whole nother plan of existence and way of being than the way the human plays ball. And so it's very different being in their company, because you realize first and foremost in the company of the holy ones, which now we're talking in the company of your own soul, there's only one game in town. There's only one focus. And that is unspeakable devotion and love for the divine, and unspeakable love the divine is pouring into that soul. It's no separation, it's ongoing, it's eternal, it's the way it always has been, it is now and always will be. This is the one thing you can rest absolutely assured upon as you and I approach this subject of establishing ourselves in our true identity as a soul. So, along with that, being insane, thinking that we're these bodies and thinking that we're these instruments and thinking that we're our desires and thinking that we're our limitations, which is totally insane, is the fact that many of us, all of us, are bipolar as well. Now, the one thing I didn't bring in is my glasses. My glasses. They're somewhere in my red cabinet, Nancy. See this soul there? See that? This is how angels are. This is how true friends are. You know, sometimes she picks up thoughts before I even have it, and she's already getting the thing or helping with the thing because she picked up a thought. This is how we were in the ashram. It was uncanny to see how everybody was there to serve each other. Didn't matter brother or the new monk or the new monk to the new monk or the new monk to the brother, but everyone was trying to intuit each other's needs because really they didn't see. That's why we didn't take our names, our family names in the order. That's why the brothers took a Sanskrit name, a name that described the soul rather than their personalities. Because we were taught to see each other as the spirit inside the transitioning bodies. Thank you, dear. I was talking about you in your absence. I was talking about how beautiful of an example you are of service, of soul service, right? And that's why we saw each other and practicing each other as the divine indwelling, the spirit, because the body, obviously, that you have is not going to stay around. And the readings that we have and the quotes that we have are going to tell you it's not worth lamenting about. There's 3 or 4 of those quotes in this reading. And it's really, I jumped ahead. This is chapter 2. But we'll get there, I thought, and we'll read this again and we'll go, oh, it'll be brand new when we get there, when we get to chapter 2. But it was so worth it to jump ahead a little bit and have our true identity. I didn't want to wait a couple months. I didn't want you to wait a couple months still not knowing who you are. It just wasn't worth it. I hope it's not worth it for you to wait a couple more months either. It's been a long time masquerading around. Right? And it's ridiculous too that you and I can sit here each other and think that, wow, this is the first time we met. And forget how close we were and how we befriended each other and how we had each other's back in so many lifetimes before this, and yet now we can almost forget that. If we're not careful, we can forget that, and I can think, wow, this is the first time I met you. That is absolute baloney as well. So for you and I to get really, really, really utterly convinced in this week on our study of who we really, really are, I think it's time. I think that God's going to grace you and bless you like He is me. And if He is me, I know that He's going to do it to you because I am you. See, you can't doubt that anymore either. My whole class this morning was on the fact that as I am, everything is. So if I choose to be funky, if I choose to be in a mood, if I choose to be complaining to something that is already destined by the karmic laws, like a body is born and a body will perish, and I'm going to lament that, then I am taking the whole world down because of the untruth or the asat that I am being. But if I choose to accept that and then to embrace my immortal self, I'm bringing the whole world up. So if you truly believe that we are one, then you're going to lift your own vibration because you wouldn't do anything to hurt somebody else that you love, would you? Or a child, an innocent little child, because we are all little children as well. Every being on the planet, from the terrorist to the president to the baseball player, everybody is a babe, a little child. How could we be so mean to each other? So when you really know yourself, all of this old dream and paradigm goes away, my friend. What did Shakespeare say? To your own self be true? Didn't he say something like that? What else was the saying? To your own self be true, and it will follow as night as after day that you can't be false to anyone. Wasn't it something like that? Close to that. To your own self be true. That's what we're talking about.